program and control. As a small biz pro, that's how we grow. Using procurement, program and control. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur.
Crystal Mitchell, where's my business plan? Hey, folks. How you
Hey, Gilbert, singing along with the intro, huh?
singing along with the intro? Gotta bring in my co-host. How you doing, co-host?
I am good, and yourself. Glad this week is over because
Oh man,
it's
I'm
been
telling you,
busy. It's
we definitely needed this over, man. It was too
yeah,
much.
this was a week. It was my birthday week, which that part was fine, but I
I
never really.
know. Happy birthday, man. Happy
Thank
birthday
you.
to you, co-host. You know you gotta celebrate this birthday thing for a whole month, right? The
Yeah,
whole
I
month
do.
is Crystal Mitchell Day, or a month, okay?
Month. Yeah, I agree with that because I really didn't get to do anything. I worked. I worked.
Yeah, you gotta get some me time, man.
Yeah, I need some me time. We have the kids right now. They're competing in a competition,
Oh
so
yeah?
that's been taking up.
Is it local or national?
Actually, 2 weeks ago, that it was actually 2 weeks ago we did a in person competition. Now tomorrow they're going. This the next session is them. They're recording it, and then we have to upload that to the site for the YEC competition.
Yeah.
And so once they do that, and then there's then at the last the ending is of this particular cohort is going to take place on the 18th of May, and
Mm.
they'll be competing. If anyone gets selected from the YEC on the 9th, then they will actually go forward to the YEC, and that's about 12,000. That's about $2,500, I think. No, $10,000 actually.
That's good,
And,
man.
hmm
That's a good amount of money for those kids.
It is, considering that it's, these are children and they're, depending on what their business is. So we're kind of excited about that. But
Yeah.
that'll be the end of this particular cohort.
Right.
But that does not mean that we are done because come June 10th, we are started up for the summer.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah.
Amazing,
So,
amazing. So you're gonna be so busy, man. So when do you have time to actually celebrate your birthday? You're going somewhere at the end of this month, right?
um, I'm gonna make something happen.
May 30th or 31st. You're supposed to be going somewhere.
I don't know if I'm going anywhere, but I do have some activities that are planned that I will be working on, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it'll be some activities that I will be doing. But it's before the kids, before the June, the summer thing is my thing. The
Yeah.
summer thing with the kids. So I take my 2 months and I do that with the children, and we got some amazing kids right now that we've recruited. So really excited about that.
How many kids you guys got enrolled right now? About
Right now, I
20
think
or
we're at 16, but our goal
16?
this year is going to be. Forgive me, for whatever reason I wasn't connected to LinkedIn. Our goal this year is going to be 40 kids or 45 kids per cohort. So we have two cohorts.
Oh wow, that's great. That's great. Those
Hmm.
folks, for those of you who are just tuning in, this is the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. We're on every Friday from 3 to 4:30. And for those of you who don't know, this is my co-host's birthday, and we'll extend it into her birth month. So the whole of this month, we're going to be celebrating my co-host, and in that process, we'll probably throw in a little interview with her, just so you know who the real Crystal Mitchell is, and how she came on the scene, what she's been doing for small businesses, what she's been doing for young entrepreneurs. Folks, you don't know this woman until you hear that interview. She is just phenomenal. So, and I'm her little cheerleader in the corner, guys. I'm always here cheering her on. Make sure.
Well, I do thank you for that. I do appreciate that. We do. We both do. We both have our little entourage of people, and because we both have the same goal to help our business owners be successful, and that's why we work because of that, right?
That's right.
We're both.
And they haven't seen your cape yet, but your cape is there, man. She's Superwoman, guys. She just keeps going, 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 man. I don't know how she do it because I could not do
Well,
it.
some days I'm like, okay, I'm tired, but I'll take my vacation in October.
Yeah,
And when I go on vacation, then I will definitely disconnect from everything
yeah,
and relax. Because this month, speaking of which, this month is Mental Health Month. May is Mental Health Month, and I think also Small Business Month, but Awareness Month. So it's very important that as business owners and entrepreneurs and the end all be all kind of people that we are, we have to take out time for self.
right, right, right.
Yeah, so
And
you can.
today's show, folks, today's show, we're gonna go over top leadership challenges in business, and we're also gonna look at 10 effective leaders throughout the last 50 years or so, 50, 60 years. Probably longer than that, because Madam C.J. Walker, she was
Oh, she was in the
1920.
1900s. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was in the 1900s. So
So
yeah.
we'll say the last 100 years. Last 100 years, guys, we're going to look at 10 effective leaders who have shaped the business world for us. And that's what we're going to cover here today. So if you're a small business and you've been leading your business and you're wondering how other leaders have, quote, how they have participated, how they have managed to lead, become successful, you might want to listen to some of these little pointers that we're going to cover today, little tips and pointers. And also, we want to cover some challenges that you're experiencing, and you may want to take a look at as to what solution, resolution, recommendations we have for that. Okay.
For sure, because successful businesses have successful leaders, and it does take a special person to run a business and to not just think about themselves, but also think about the people that are working with them and their vendors and their their all their supporters and most definitely their customers. So
That's right.
that's what we're going to kind of talk about today as we're moving forward in the former president is on trial, right?
Yeah.
And so today they were Hope Hicks was on the stand, and
Who's that person again? Hope Hicks. Who's
Hope
that?
Hicks, remember she worked for during the Trump when he was in office, she worked for him and she was a press secretary or whatever she was, one of the
Man,
people.
I don't even
But
remember some of those people.
yeah, but she was very involved in part of in part in the room with most of the conversations that were going on, right?
Oh, okay.
But today she made a comment because they're trying to tie in that he knew everything that was going on in his company. That wasn't like somebody came and reported to him. He had a hands on. And so one of the statements and comments she made was he ran his business like a family small business.
Oh, wow.
So when you say that, what does that mean to you, being the coach? We're both are coaches, and most of our clients are sometimes family owned businesses, but a lot of times still very small, under 20, under 10, under 15 employees. So what does that usually mean to you?
So that usually mean that they run it in an autocratic leadership style. That means only one decision counts. One person makes all the decision, and everybody got to fall in line under that. And they usually don't want to go by the book. So it's like every day it's a different rule, a different law based on the autocrat, the leader. So yeah, that's
Yeah, that's usually the characteristic of a small
usually.
your own business, right? It's not
Yes.
like it's not like a corporation where there's a board and there's
Right.
team leaders and
Policies, procedures.
right, exactly. Normally that means you as the small business owner, you're wearing all the hats and your hands got to be into everything. You don't trust
Yeah.
anybody.
Right. Right. Right.
You literally don't trust anybody, with the business. That's the biggest issue. That's one of
Yeah.
the biggest challenges, I think, and we'll probably talk about that with a small business owner is that learning to delegate is a very challenging thing for them.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And it's amazing, that that's going to be one of the challenges that we're going to cover here today on this show. Because it's very few leaders can delegate, very few leaders, because one, they don't really trust the people around them. They don't trust anyone. They think they're the only ones who can do it. So it tends to tie things up a lot and slow down the progress of the business, and it becomes a nightmare, and many of the followers in the business become very frustrated and don't want to do. So when you mention that lady's name, I can understand how she's speaking the way she is right now, because she was right up there as defending him and talking all kinds of good
Right,
things.
exactly.
And now you see that?
Yeah, so she led in with he's a very hard worker.
Yeah,
She did say that, so
yeah,
that was a compliment on that side.
yeah.
But he ran his business like a family-owned small business,
Business, yeah. Even
family
though it's
small
a
business owner.
corporation, right?
I went, oh, wait, that okay, that she, the way she, especially when she's being interrogated there. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a compliment, and then not.
But see, at the same time, by her saying that, she's trying to absolve herself of any responsibility, because she's saying, hey, if this person is an autocrat and he runs a business like that, where his decision is the only decision that matters, that even if I made a decision, that decision was not important because he's going to override that. That's why she's trying to.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's one of the characteristics, and that's one of the things that we are always trying to work with our business owners. In order to scale, you kind of have to step back and you have to bring in you have to bring in employees and put people in positions to take responsibility and accountability for their departments, right? That's
Yeah.
part of that organizational stuff. And then they just kind of give you the overall highlights and the
Yeah.
results of how the methods have worked, right? You're not necessarily coming up with the methods.
Right. Exactly.
So that's why you hire them. So
And a lot of times they may not even agree with the decision or the direction in which the autocrat, the sole leader, is going in, but then they just go along with it because they go, hey, you're the leader, it's your company. we're just a little pawn here in this business,
we
so
just
we'll
a
do whatever
clock.
you
We
say.
just a spoke in the wheel, man.
Yeah.
That's the other part about being, working an employee versus an employer. Being the employer, right, on that other side of
Hmm.
that coin, you don't ever feel like you are. There's not a lot of economy in a corporation sometimes when you're working in corporate America or working for someone else. That was primarily my reason for some of the reasons for me becoming an entrepreneur. I just didn't feel that it was a big enough impact. What was I changing? What was the purpose? I was helping someone else make money.
Yeah. And it's amazing that some leaders, some owners of small businesses, they think that way, where they really don't trust people and they want to make all the decisions, because people like you and I, we can't wait to delegate some of our duties and tasks to
Hmm.
others, because it's killing us. I mean, we
Right.
can't really do everything. We need to delegate, and as a result, we give them autonomy to make those
Hmm.
decisions and do stuff. As long as the decisions are not in conflict with the direction and the mission and focus of the business, then it's all good. But
Right.
once you start, hoarding all the decision making, it's all about you. You're in a meeting, you're traveling, but you still got to make decisions. It's just a disaster.
Right, because then because I remember many times when I had a boss, and when I had a boss that allowed you to be who you were, and to, then you knew what your job was and you
Yeah.
executed your job right. They didn't micromanage, and I'm sure we're
Right.
going to talk about that as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so because they didn't micromanage, they could go out of town and things would run smoothly, and they didn't have to come back and pick up pieces and do any of that because they
Yeah.
knew, one, you were well trained, and two, you knew what your responsibilities were, and so therefore you did your responsibilities and ran the business while they were
Right.
away.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
This
that's
is it.
that.
That's
That's
a
a leader.
that's a case study within itself right there that a lot of people can use in universities, in entrepreneurship training programs, to show how the structure and administration of some business can be devastating to its growth and development, and also the
Hmm.
development of its staff and team,
Hmm.
versus providing them autonomy to free flow and do the things they need to do on their own without having to wonder, hey, am I doing the right thing? Is this going to be approved by leadership?
Hmm.
It's crazy.
Or that person is in your ear and there's some critique coming, so
Yeah.
now you're operating not as fluidly as you could
Yeah.
if you were just allowed to free reign. You know what your boundaries are. But
Right.
yeah, that happens a lot in businesses.
Hmm.
They want to control every aspect, but it doesn't really work that well for them or for your business.
I hope many of our small businesses take heed to that, because it's a serious process. It can affect you, especially if you're getting government contracts. The contract providers, man, they when they want answers, they want it there on the spot. They don't want to say, well, let me get to the leader, and the leader is on vacation now and he won't be back until 2 weeks. No, it doesn't work that way. We got to make
Right,
some decisions
exactly. So the
now.
business stops. No, the
Yeah,
business can't
business
stop. Wow.
stalls in the middle of everything.
Right, and that's that next step to scaling, right? Because
Yeah.
you started, you created it, it's your baby, but now, in fact, I had a young lady that I was coaching this week, and I don't ever tell a person that their idea,
Right.
especially if they already came to me with that idea. It's a different story if
Right.
I'm helping you map out your idea. Then of
Right.
course I'm going to have some insight on what this looks like. But if they've already come to me with a business, then basically it's like, okay, so what do you need and how can I help you? Whatever.
Hmm.
So we talked about it, and she had the candle business. And when you think about a bigger enterprise
Hmm.
and you're making your candles, there's some limitation to your capacity,
That's right. Especially the
right?
production and manufacturing of it.
Right. And so that's one thing, the production and manufacturing, because you unless you set the prototype and then send it off and have them uh, produce multiple, a large volume or bulk volume, but that's usually not it. Hey,
Yeah.
Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Um,
Happy Friday, brother.
so she finally said, she goes, you know what? I think I've been putting a lot of time and energy into this business, and I don't think it's going to be that profitable for me. Yeah, I know how we got the memo.
That's a small. That's the business zone theme color there. That's our uniform.
Right, exactly. So I said, and I just listened, and she said some other things. I said, you know what? I'm glad you got to that. I was never going to say that to you because I'm not gonna step on anybody's dream. But the competition is too competitive.
Yeah.
You got big box stores that are selling candles for $2.
Yeah.
What can you do that's so uniquely different, that has a unique value proposition,
Yeah.
that that a business is lit? that would be able to, when we talk about goals, what does creating $200,000 in candle making look like?
And the thing about it is, there's a big chance that her price or price point is going to be higher than the big box because they can
Right,
afford to produce in bulk. While
right.
with her, you know, if they're selling for $2, she might be selling for 5 or 6 because of the cost, the manufacturing cost for her.
Right, exactly. So that, and so she came to a different conclusion. And it's your target market is pretty limited as well, because who's
Yeah,
buying candles, right?
yeah,
Yeah, you guys don't. And if you buy candles, how many are you gonna buy? You're not gonna go back out every week and buy a new candle or every
exactly.
new season. So she came to that conclusion, and I was glad that she did, because we have some financial goals that we want to meet this year, and I'm like, I don't know how you're gonna make that happen, but okay. But
Yeah,
anyway, but that's what we have to do. Well, yeah, you're right, Greg. Hemp candles, because that's something unique. That's a unique niche product line.
yeah.
Yeah, but your regular scented candles, no.
Yeah, I've come across a few of those candle makers before, and I kind of share the same type of sentiments with them. I mean, many of them get their feelings hurt, but like you said, I told them that, listen, I'm not trying to step all over your dream because what do I know? I don't know how successful you can be in this, but
Right.
we just want to let you know about some of the guardrails that exist within this industry and your competitors, so you must be mindful of that while doing what you do because your competitors who are big, the big box store, they've got buku bucks to spend on advertising, manufacturing,
Mhm.
marketing, all of that, plus they control the better space and store shelf space in the stores.
Mhm.
So your product may be in a different aisle other than the candle aisle on the floor or somewhere, while theirs is right at eye level in the front of the store, because they're bigger, they can afford that. I didn't realize the costs of, they call it real estate.
Yes.
So I went to Costco one time. I was trying to get my product Small Biz Pro in their stores, and they
Mhm.
said, "Well, you got to be willing to pay for real estate." I was like, "What do you mean real estate?" I said, "Well, the shelf space that you're gonna get—that's real estate. So you got to pay top dollar for that if you want your product to be upfront where customers can see it once they walk in the store or at the front of the store." And I'm going, wow, how much is that? Well, they tell me about the hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm going, whoa.
Yeah,
So
see, that's a whole other ball game, right? Because the
yes,
bottom shelf is how many people look at the bottom shelf. So you really want to be like at eye level, right?
yes,
Because so that people, as soon as you walk in, you can see. Like if you go to a Target, your if you go down the toothbrush, the toothpaste and mouthwash, the most favorite mouthwash, which is Listerine, is sitting
yeah,
there right at eye level. You don't even have to look
exactly,
hard, right? So that's
exactly.
how you have to look at it. I think when you're looking at a product that you'd like to sell eventually in a big box store,
Yeah,
where would you possibly sit
right,
on the shelf? If there's a seven shelf, a layer shelf, where would you put the very very bottom? And
right.
because if you're at the very very bottom, but Greg said the best bargains are on the bottom. This could be true here, right? But you have to bend down. You
Yeah,
have to look down there to see, and if it's pushed back in the back, you won't see it.
exactly.
Right, exactly. Um, yeah, the higher mark or at eye level. And I think I took a marketing class one time, and that's what I think. Here's the thing: as small businesses, we do the research. We stay on top of the industries because we have to um, in order to be able to coach, right?
Yeah,
But small businesses, They don't do that. They don't go out and research their industry or understand the dynamics to placement on shelves and who your if your target market is like if your target market is children, parents of children. So you go to a supermarket and all the candy is on the same aisle, right?
Right.
Same right there at the cashier. Whatever they want you to pick up at the tail end
Right.
after you've filled up your cart is right there on those in aisles.
Right. Right.
And then if you go to the baby aisle, you will find all the diet stuff along with the diet with the baby stuff because that's where the mama is, right? So
Right.
you want to
Right.
make you want to so you don't have to go looking. So it is a science.
That is true. That
It is
is
a
true.
science out there. So, but you have to be very mindful of that. So it's not a happenstance
Right.
concept in the marketing and the placement of your product.
And sometimes they don't want to hear it, even though they know it's true, they don't want to hear it. So, you just got to give them the information and leave them to their own devices. If they want to, listen to it, then it's up to them.
You can lead them to the water, but you
Yeah.
can't make them drink.
Can't make them drink it.
All righty. So we're gonna first of all, you guys are tuned into the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, and we ask that you go over to our YouTube channel so that you get notification every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock to come visit us. Spend a little some time with us on Friday afternoon. Like our guest today, we got Greg. He's our resident court jester, and he provides great comment as well. And then today we got Andrea that stepped in to visit us. So hit that subscribe button so you know when we're on, and come and visit us at any time. Go over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. We have over 780 something, 80 plus videos that's been archived there since we launched this platform 8 years ago. It'll be 8 years in July. So
That's right.
we want to be the place you come on a Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock. If nothing else, just to say hello to us.
That's right. And Andrea, don't hesitate to put your comments in the chat. If you got something you want to add to our conversation, just go ahead and share your expertise because you are an expert in your field as well. Okay?
And Greg put, thank you. And Greg put the court jester his image. All righty. So we are going to, what happened here? Where did you go? Okay, there we go. We are going to do a quick little video of Mr. Buchanan's product over here, the Small Biz Pro product that will keep you organized. And it's the equivalent of what, three employees?
3 employees for free.
For free. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to jump into our topic. It's kind of exciting. So before we go for our topic, do you guys, and if you're listening to us, do you have a leader or business leader that you emulate or that you felt that was made a big impact on you becoming an entrepreneur yourself? So if that's the case, just you guys can throw that in the chat here on the chat if you're tuned in to us, or just put it in the comments on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter or X. I guess that's where we are right now. So we'd love to hear who you what made a big impression on you as a leader. And then we'll come back and talk about that. But in the meantime, and in between time, we're going to take a listen to Small Biz Pro. So let me see if this pops up.
Greg said, and now a word from our sponsor.
Yes, and now
A tool that organizes your company's paperwork and takes care of all your record keeping. Does your current record-keeping system send you 90-day alerts to remind you that your key documents are about to expire and need to be renewed? Can you find contracts and procurement opportunities in seconds from any of the 50 United States so you can grow your business? Is your business organized so that you can tell which key documents are needed to efficiently run the business? How about woman-owned, small business, or disadvantaged business enterprise certifications? Do you have a checklist of all the key documents?
Oh, what happened?
I have no idea.
Oh, wait, here. Is it coming? Should be coming back. Let's see.
I
What's
think
happening?
YouTube is trying to hold us hostage here.
It's buffering. What's happening? Come on, come back.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Okay. Well, all right. I guess it doesn't want to play. We'll come back at the end and play it. All righty. Well, let's jump right on into our conversation then.
Okay. If you're a leader out there and you've been experiencing some challenges, this show today will provide you with some insight. But before we do that, we want to look at 10 effective leaders over the last 100 years.
And you know, it's something. I was thinking when we started talking about this conversation, I was thinking that um, are business owners or these leaders that we're going to discuss, are they different than the leaders that are at the helm of some of the top companies today? And I personally think there is a change. There is a difference in how corporate leaders actually lead today versus how they led yesterday.
Yeah, that is true. That is
Yeah,
true.
I think there's a. What do you think, Greg? Because you interact with businesses from a different standpoint. Um, oh, okay. What do you say? I need my tax documents 2 days ago, and I logged in and emailed directly to my client. Best solution for my business. Okay. Oh,
That,
she
that
just logged into
yeah,
Small Biz
small
Pro.
business pro. Yeah,
Well, that's a better commercial than your own
I
commercial.
know. Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate that.
All righty. So first leader. So we know that leaders generally in businesses, and we have two people who are amazing leaders in their business that's chatting with us right now. But they really, a lot of businesses and these leaders and founders, um, it was their mission and goal to change the world in some way or another. And you know, Gilbert, it's so funny. That's what we tell our kids: come up with a business that's going to change the world. So
Yes.
the first leader here on this list, the 10 uh, great leaders, or I guess a greater is the GOAT, the
The
greatest leaders
goat.
of their time, right?
The goats.
The
10
GOAT,
goats.
the 10 GOATs. So the first one was Henry Ford. And so he was designated as leader. He was a pioneer of the Model T Ford, the first vehicle, and launched more than just the engines, but through the Model T assembly line, a more efficient way of working, and the approach to production lowered the cost of the materials and the final toward the final product. So he changed how Americans their transportation modes. Right now, instead of the horse and buggy or walking, they now had the car. And when I go back and I look at old movies, and they had to do this little thing here on the front to get the car to go in, the crank,
Little crank.
the little crank, and they had their outfits. The women had their veils and stuff, and it covered their face because it was all open, and they would get dust and so forth. And they had those little khaki color outfits. That's what I remember when I think about the Model T Ford.
Yeah. That's hilarious. It's amazing how far we've come,
Right now, we have vehicles that are electric.
Yes. And self-driving vehicles, all of that good stuff.
Right. So he was the pioneer. He set the stand. He set the mode, and to bring in motorized vehicles so that which improved and changed the world and improved our method of transportation.
Exactly. Now, the second leader, effective leader that we have on our list is Steve Jobs. And of course, you all know Steve Jobs is that innovative leader from Apple Inc. He's created a variety of different devices and well, he helped to create that. He
Mm-hmm.
led on that. And his mantra was focus and simplicity. That was his mantra. And then he said, simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple. And that is true. You know, most of us out there in the marketplace right now, we provide services, we provide the product, but the customers are the ones who want simple. You know, they don't want difficulty. They don't want it to take them forever to access it. So simplicity and usability, convenience is really, really what they're looking for. So with Steve Jobs, you know, he didn't necessarily invent the wheel, but he sure did reinvent it. And the computer is really part of his claim to fame, you know, because of the way in which Apple went about providing their uh, the service offering within that device. So it became very exciting to the world. Now the world, they've gotten a different computer system, which they believe that is, you know, maybe superior to others, because you know, you didn't have to worry about viruses attacking your computer or anything like that, because they have some built-in systems to really sanitize that system, the device, to make sure that didn't happen. So he has become that iconic face of Apple Inc. And he's known to millions across the world for the Apple brand and the Apple devices. You know, they started out with a computer and they went into watches, they went into cell phones, they went into all different types of things. So that technology has really, really made it accessible and in high demand to consumers over the world. One nation which I think really benefits more from Steve Jobs' leadership, effectiveness, and guidance, I believe, is India, because most of these products are manufactured in India. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's very, very true. And so he also, there was a number of them behind him as well.
yeah,
But that was at the point that the internet or the .com industry was a time of disruption. And
yeah,
so, these guys were so innovative. So he has Steve Jobs quote was intervention, in what is it, in I can't even get the word out. Intervention distinguishes between a leader and a follower, because they're coming up with brand new ideas
yeah,
that no one thought possible. And Steve Jobs was in, him and what's his name, Waddell was in the garage with the little box. Remember the
yeah,
little box computers with the digital green lights and stuff. But
right,
who would think that today life, we wouldn't even know what to do with life or how to
right,
conduct business if
yeah,
we didn't have the internet and the and computers, and that computer actually has allowed us to become global businesses because we can interact with them. And here's another little tip. It's not on our list over here, but I don't know how many of you watched black and white movies a long time ago. But if you guys have ever heard the name Hedy Lamarr, Hedy Lamarr she was an actress in the 1930s. And
Eddie, Eddie.
Hedy, Hedy Lamarr.
Oh, that's a black actress, right?
No, she was white. Yeah, she
Oh,
was
really?
white.
Oh,
But
okay.
guess what she did? She wasn't just an actress. She was quite bright. She was from Poland, I think. She was somewhere from the Eastern Bloc. But she actually was the person that came up with the technology behind the Wi-Fi.
Oh, really?
Uh huh. I was reading something on YouTube. There was a documentary on it and said she was like brilliant.
That's
But of course, she was
amazing.
a woman in the 1920s, 1930s, and all that,
Yeah.
and she was beautiful. So
She
that's
didn't
what they
have a
thought.
seat at the table.
She didn't have a seat at the table, but she was the one that created the technology behind Wi-Fi.
I'm gonna have to dig into that some more, man. That's
Yeah.
good. It's good
I'll have to send
information.
it over to you. It was kind of like, wow. So yeah, they
Yeah.
did a little thing on her. All righty. So, oops, what happened? So our next person, oh, what happened? Lost my train of
It
thought over
is
here.
one of our favorite.
One of our favorites, Madam C.J. Walker. So again, a great leader, changing the time, especially as a black woman or black person post slavery. She got she I got my start by giving myself a start. So at that time, our ancestors and former slaves, they had to really pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and generally it was out of necessity. One of the most brilliant leaders found an underserved corner of the market, and she served it. No one exemplifies this more so than Madam C.J. Walker. In the 1900s and the early 20th century, she developed. She didn't quite develop it, yeah, but she
She expanded on it.
she expanded on it. Hair care products that directly targeted the needs of a demographic of African American women who had been overlooked, and the beauty industry was non-existent, and they really had needs and a problem to be solved, which was the fact that they didn't have hair care. So she developed that, and her business quickly took her to become a very successful African American businesswoman in history. She did become a millionaire, and over time she came not just the hair care products, but she also had now this one was hers, the straightening comb and the hot comb
And
and
hair
then the
care
curling iron.
products.
Yeah, that was her. But the actual development of the hair care products was Annie Malone. So I have to
Which
correct it. I have to correct it. I have to clarify that each and every time I talk about her. Yeah, that wasn't quite true. Her being the one that came up with that.
which is amazing because she took something in the marketplace and she expanded on it, and that, as many of our entrepreneurs out there, you can do the same thing too. You can take the vacuum cleaner, an existing product, of course that was invented by a black person as well, but you know you can take the vacuum cleaner and you can expand on that, and now it becomes a different functioning device in the marketplace. So that's exactly how it is. Take something that can help to uh, make life easier for customers in the marketplace. You establish a price point that's reasonable to them, and you put it out there. You market it, and see how well it goes off by itself. So she has done an amazing thing, and I keep and another reason why I keep you know I was echoing her
Mhm.
sentiments as a leader is because in her time when she was leading, it was so difficult. I mean, she was born 2 years after slave emancipation, which
Mhm.
slave emancipation was in 1865. She was born 1867. So, as as most of us know, during that times when slaves became free, okay, now they didn't have a way to make a living because the owners would not hire them because they're going, screw these guys. I was making a killing by having them giving me free labor, and now they're gone, and now they want to charge me for their labor.
Yeah, that's still a
So
bone in their craw.
that's still a bone in their crop. So people, a lot of blacks had to go out and become entrepreneurs because there's no one to hire them. So they had to they have to identify a product or a service in the marketplace that they can solve a pain in that marketplace. And she came up with the hair care product because then, black women had to be carrying all kinds of loads on their head. You carry buckets,
Mhm.
you carry baskets, you carry the cotton, all kinds of things. And because of that, it messed with their hair. The hair started falling out, wasn't growing well. It looks like they have, what's the name
And
of
they
that?
Yeah,
What's an
alopecia, and they
alopecia? Yeah,
didn't have
like they
a
had that.
pretty, yeah, they didn't have their nutrition, their eating, the food that they were intaking was scrapped, so they
Yeah,
weren't getting the right nutrition and
right,
nutrients to take care of from the inside, which is what
right,
happens. Your hair, the carrying of your hair takes place on the inside, like everything else, right?
right.
So yeah, so she solved a pain point
Yeah,
at the time.
and
So
she was one of the first first female millionaires in this country. First, not
and
just
she,
black, not just black, not just white, but first.
but here's the key: solving a pain point. If
Yeah,
you solving somebody's pain point, man, it's not difficult for
yeah,
you to become very wealthy doing so.
yes,
Even with Steve Jobs, solving our method of being able to communicate
yeah,
and to be able to work more efficiently.
yes.
Computers allowed us to work more efficiently. I mean, I remember when I first got into the business world as as administrative assistant,
Yeah.
and you had to do clerical work, and you would type a letter on the old IBM Selectric compute typewriter, and you make
Right.
a mistake, and you had to have the carbon paper, and you had to have whiteout, and all kinds of stuff. Right now, you just backspace
Yeah.
and delete.
Oh, I
So
remember that well, man, when I used to write term paper for my classes. I have to type it up and I hated it.
right now, you can do a term as the kids do. They do a presentation. I don't know how, but on their phone. So the computer was a big intervention and a disruptor, and totally changed and made an incredible impact in our lives.
Right.
And just quickly before we jumped over to John D. Rockefeller, so Hetty Marriott, what it was, she invented and patented the frequency hopper, and they used it during the war in the 1930s and 40s, World War Two, one, two,
Hmm.
two, and it's the basis for wireless technology today.
Oh,
So this is
wow.
a woman born in 1930. It was she was an actress in the 1930s. All
That's
right,
amazing. That
isn't that
is
amazing?
amazing. Yes.
History is just so incredible.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
love history, and for them to be wanting to reduce, eliminate history. History just is such a rich enrichment of us as people and your knowledge base, and
Yeah.
yeah, so
I don't
ridiculous.
think I don't think they'll be able to eliminate history, man, because it forces us to do our own research, and then we'll come up with the real stuff. The real.
Right, exactly. You go to that internet. Mary Ellen Pleasant was the first black female. Oh yeah, Mary Ellen Pleasant actually had a bank. Yeah, it's still in Philadelphia. I believe that bank is still in existence. Actually,
Yeah.
and we'll have to do something on her. Maybe later this month, because it
Yeah.
is Mother's Day month of women.
Yeah.
So, but let's jump over to our next number four, John D. Rockefeller. He
Right.
had his quote is, the singleness of purpose is one of the chief essentials for success in life, no matter what may be one's aim. So it takes some severe business savvy to become the first American billionaire. So that was John D. Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Wrangled and ran the 19th century American oil economy, bringing travel and transit to Americans more cheaply than ever before. Standard Oil was also managed to shape America's laws and public attitudes toward monopoly. So everyone knows who the Rockefellers are. They had a lavish properties um, in New York in Manhattan at the time. Circa 1800s, 1900s. There is a show on one of the might be PBS. It's called The Gilded Age, and that show is all about Rockefeller and how he got started and how he built this big mansion in New York on Fifth Avenue, and it covered like 4 to 5 blocks. and so he's, his family and his descendants have lived on, and actually are majorly involved in the economics of our country and
Yeah,
the world.
for sure, for sure. That is for sure.
Yeah.
So number five, P.T. Barnum, and a lot of people may know, of P.T. Barnum, and some may not have known of them. But P.T. Barnum is the one that made the saying very popular, that fortune always favors the brave and never helps a man who does not help himself. You know, usually when you get these kinds of phrases and sayings are usually people who've been through, some stuff in order
Yeah.
to achieve, their level of accomplishment. So P.T. Barnum's success, they say, was no freak accident. He was a showman and founder of the Barnum Bailey Circus, which captured American fascination through the fascinating experience of the circus, which
Hmm.
was unexpected things happening. And he became known as the Shakespeare of advertising, which is true. When I was a kid, I used to hear about the circus and just the way they advertised it, man. It was just amazing. It made it so enticing that you wanted to go, you want to check it out, even though it's potentially dangerous because you got those big old animals, elephants and tigers and lions and all of that there, and people trying to do tricks with them. Those are untamed animals. They march to the beat of their own drum. So it was crazy, but folks wanted to check it out anyway. So to come up with a concept like that, it takes great leadership and ingenuity.
And
So
he also started very late. He was an older man,
yes,
and he was very poor. He and his
yes,
wife, and I think that one of his children, his only child, daughter, was
mhm,
ill. But this was a passion that he was not letting go of. He was just completely enthralled with the whole presentation, and when he came up with the three ring circus,
yeah,
that carried on. His legacy carried on for decades and decades and decades. I think there still is. They still do a circus, but not like they used to. Not when we were kids.
yeah. They don't do it much anymore. I think they decided to retire a few years back, right?
Yeah, I think they
From the
finally
circus
retired.
business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for the circus business. But yeah, so that was it. Okay, and our next one is Estee Lauder. I remember the little ladies at church when I was a kid. They all wore Estee Lauder, the old lady perfume.
Yes. Yes. That granny perfume that you
Yeah, the
smell all the
granny
time.
perfume. So Estee Lauder, when she was a child, she took a great interest in her uncle's chemistry products and demonstrated a immediate entrepreneurship knack for entrepreneurship at a very young age, and so she sold products where she could, and she went on to develop her own product brand and permanence in the American beauty world. And today, Estee Lauder is still a product that is sold, even in this day and age. But she had a knack for, I know one person in all of the businesses that I've spoken to over the years, and they actually have a name for them. I can't remember
Mhm.
what the name is. Uh, Greg said there's a circus in Hollywood. That's true. But
That
there is
is,
actually, but this is a black woman that
yeah.
actually created perfumes as well, and they actually have a name. She went to school for it, some sort of sensologist or something of that nature. But that would have been Estee Lauder. So some of you grandmother or great grandmother or the lady of the church may have worn Estee Lauder. Kind of a heavy perfume.
Yes, yes, yeah. It's amazing. When I was a kid, and any little old lady come around me with that perfume is like, ugh,
Right,
it's
because
too strong.
it's very, very strong. But just think about it: if a product that started in the 1930s is still a viable product today
Yeah.
in 2024. Because
Yeah.
you can buy Estee Lauder in the store. There's a whole, they have a whole cosmetic line. So
Yeah.
that says a lot. That's what I'm talking about, longevity of a business that's lived on past her. She's
Yeah.
gone, but it's
And,
lived on past her.
and see, a big part of leadership is, doing continuous improvement in your business, how you can sustain the product, sustain the demand in the marketplace, and just keep it going. Sometimes you just got to tweak the formula, tweak it a little bit, to make your customers, to delight your customers into wanting to continue purchasing it or telling more people about it.
Yeah, right,
So,
exactly. So that says a
so
lot when you create a business that's got longevity.
exactly. So number
Hmm.
seven, leader number seven, effective leaders we're going over here today, folks. So number seven is Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie is known for his phrase for saying, people who are unable to motivate themselves must be content with mediocrity, no matter how impressive their other talents are. So
Mm.
that's a really good and motivating phrase right there. If you're unable to motivate yourself, then how are you going to get to where you want to be and achieve your goals and your dream? You can't rely on others to motivate you. You got to motivate yourself. So,
And you have to be motivated. So that's what I think we see today, because you have to be motivated about the product or the service or the impact, and not motivated by the money. And that's
yes,
what we see today. Our CEOs and leaders of companies are motivated by the money and not
right.
by what they're providing for their audience.
Right, exactly, exactly. Now, Andrew Carnegie was a different kind of leader because, unlike the former president that we were talking about earlier today, who tried to be an autocratic leader and try to hoard all the leadership objectives and guidelines and instructions to himself and not empowering his team to be autocratic, this
Hmm.
guy, Andrew Carnegie, was a more transformative force that ushered Americans into the Industrial Revolution. They call him an iconic steel baron because he was able to establish guidelines that would help his middle managers and other professionals to become more successful, develop skills that would help them to expand the middle class. And that was a different approach. That was a different approach to leadership and running a business, because now, by you motivating people, you're giving them autonomy to do what they do, then they can motivate others, and that will help to grow your middle managers, your B manager, your C manager level. And that's really what was happening here. So it helped, by doing that, it helped to grow the middle class, because middle managers, they make a certain amount of money. They empower their assistants to make more money, and that's really what this was all about. So, according to this article here, it's saying that only few people could dispute that he was one of the country's most influential leaders. And if you ask me, I would say I would endorse that, to say he was one of the most influential leaders, because of the fact that he helped to revolutionize the aspect of autonomy to help grow and strengthen middle managers. Because most of the time, middle managers are just there as a support staff, and they just make them as a contact person to the rest of the group. But what he did and what he promoted was, hey, we got to strengthen you as a middle manager. You got to be able to lead. You got to be able to manage. You got to be able to understand, the mission and the vision of this organization, and how the customers in the marketplace react to our product and our services, and what their needs are, what their pain points are. So that's I like that one.
Right,
Co-host.
and on top of that, Greg added as well. He dedicated the remainder of his life to large scale philanthropy, and with special emphasis on building local libraries, world peace, education, and
Yes,
scientific research. He actually built 2,811 lending libraries around the globe. That was
amazing.
Yeah. So he gave as well as the he was obviously I have to I've never seen a documentary on him, but I know there's one on PBS. I'm gonna go check it out. But he obviously was a giving man, and
Right,
of course he built the Carnegie Hall. Um,
amazing.
so he used his wealth at the end of his days. He used his wealth to help the unfortunate and other people. So that's good. He gave some back stuff. I
Yeah.
like that when they give stuff back.
Yes, yeah, I like that too because I'm one of those. I'm one of those leaders who I love to give back to the community, and you know that, co-host. I've donated so many licenses to Small Biz Pro to small businesses, and even some to some nonprofits. Every year.
Yeah. 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 I give a lot. I give more than I actually get paid for when it comes, especially for children. I give
Yeah,
back a lot there.
yeah,
So our next guy is King Caruso. I
yeah.
don't know if I've ever met him, I've heard of him, but he wasn't a businessman in the traditional sense. He was a king, and he
Right,
was an Asian. Oh yeah, I guess I do know this person. An
right.
Asian ruler in the 6th century BC. He created the world's first coin currency by creating cash flow. His inclusion here makes made it into sense. I guess he was the first penny. The first penny was created by him. Okay, that's some new information. I have to do some research on that one. But
This
okay,
is in line with what you do, co-host, the bookkeeping and the accounting.
yeah, and Greg as well. Greg be counting them pennies. So I guess I need to know more about this King Caruso man. Yeah, he was a very wealthy ruler in the middle, and his extravagant riches made him famous, but he could not escape uh what is it, they destroyed his kingdom, but I guess the coin is what he's known for. All righty then. He had he had gold and silver mines. So
Yes. So the next item on our list, leader number
mhm.
9, Walt Disney. Walt Disney, I'm sure, pretty much everyone in the world have heard about Walt Disney because they built this wonderful Walt Disney World and Walt Disney Kingdom and Walt Disney, you name it. So
Yeah, up until DeSantis, nobody ever talked bad about Walt Disney.
I know, I know.
It's the place where happiness goes.
Exactly, man. Exactly. And I guess his mantra was a man should never neglect his family for business. So, he seemed to figure out how to balance the business life and the family life. We talk about that on our show all the time. Life, love, business, balance. And I guess he knew how to do that. But he was a creative and he was a corporate entrepreneur and an animator. And I think that's the key part to his um, skill level is the animation piece because everything else came after that. As the animator, he was able to be able to create intentionally beloved brands that the Mickey Mouse and the Minnie Mouse and the
That we
Goofy and
all
all of
grew up
those.
on.
Oh
We all,
yeah,
we
you
all
know
grew up on Minnie Mouse. There's
every
all you
kid,
can watch.
man, every kid around the world. I remember when I was a kid, man, I couldn't wait for Saturday to come so I can watch cartoons.
The first thing in the morning, that's the first thing you do. And when I came to California, we didn't have a Disneyland in Buffalo. But when
Yeah.
I came to California, the first time I went to Disneyland here, not Disney World. I've never been to Disney World, but to Disneyland, it's like, oh, this is the happiest place on
Yes.
earth. When my niece was 5, we took her, and she was so tiny, and when she would look up all of the Daffy and Daffy Duck and Pluto and all of them, they were big, huge people, right? And she looked up
Right.
and she go, Auntie, this is the scariest place on earth. She was all high between the legs and everything, because everything was so enlarged. Like, but Disney World and it too has
Yeah.
his animation, and he did film production, but he now owns Channel 7
Yeah.
Disney, and he has Disney Worlds all over the world.
Yeah.
I want
They
to say
own
maybe
ESPN as well.
ESPN. I even want to say that he may. I don't. Wasn't he at the World's Fair when they had the first World's Fair? I guess that was in
I
Canada
believe
somewhere.
so. Yeah, I believe so.
I think if I recall, I think I've seen some movies on that. Greg may know that, but yeah. So yeah, who doesn't like the Disney World except for DeSantis?
Co-host, that is so amazing. See, that's one of the things when we as entrepreneurs think about entering the marketplace, right? We want to start a business, we want to provide a product or a service to the marketplace. Some of us think about this, but others don't. We think about, okay, our offering to the marketplace, man, we want it to be the offering that everyone will rally around and support and say, hey, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And for him, that's what happened here. As an
Mm.
animator, he's saying, I want to create these characters. I want to make people like them and make them likable. And, it would bring laughter to people. And that's exactly what happened. Goofy and Minnie and Mickey and all of that, until this day is like, man, even Goofy has not said a word, right?
Right, exactly. But that's what it was. And Greg said Disney wasn't as so open to people of color. But I guess because I know, and Greg, this was mentioned at Reverend Murray's tribute last week. That Disney, and I do remember this when I was at Fame First AME Church. Disney, I don't know if it was Disney. I don't think it was him. I think it was Warner Brothers that made it possible for 300 kids to go work at Disneyland. And Greg, you may have all the details of this. Disneyland in the summer, they would pick them up from Fame. It was something that was negotiated, and I just learned that it went on for 10 years. So they would pick up 300 kids and take them, and they hired them at Disneyland, and they worked, and then they would bring them home in the evening. So
Yeah,
from the
that's
morning hours.
amazing.
So that was Disney. Okay, so that was Disney that did that, and they did that for 10 years. I never knew until I heard that at Reverend Murray's tribute that it went on for 10 years. I know the years that I was there when it
Yeah.
first happened. I remember that happening.
Can you ever imagine, an entrepreneur who created a business based on storytelling?
Oh,
That's what this is all about, man.
right. That's like
Storytelling.
people who making movie. Oh, I didn't know that, Greg. So Greg says in 1994, those children were the first Black employees at the park.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Wow. So they broke wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, that
Never
is
knew that part.
amazing. Thank you for that contribution,
Yeah.
Greg.
Reverend Murray was the best, man. That church at the Fame, everything happened outside the walls of the church. His ministry was not contained within the walls. That's a great pastor leader, in my opinion. He should be part of these great the goats over here, because the mission went outside always for the whole
Yeah.
time, and I was there for 20-something years while he was there. We were always outside of the framework of the church itself, the ministry.
Right.
And his mission went outside the church.
Hey, co-host, did you ever own a Toyota car?
I did not. I was. I guess I've always had American. No, I had a Mazda at one time, but most of the time I've had American car. Is this the owner of Toyota?
Yeah. So
So,
number 10,
okay.
number 10, the final leader is Sakishi Toyota. Sakishi Toyota.
Toyota. Oh, okay, Toyota.
Toyota. So so he decided that what he wants to do is to come up with some money. So he came up with some money to start this business. Part of being successful, is knowing how to use past success to invent in future successes. So this Sakishi Toyota invented, and he called it an error detecting loom in 1924. Now, he later sold the loom as a patent for $150,000. So back then in 1924, man, 150,000 was probably like probably about 100 million, 90 to 100 million, right?
Oh, wow.
Greg, you can
Yeah, we
give
can
me the
calculate that pretty fast.
conversion. You can give me the conversion to that. But the 150,000 back in 1924, man, that was a lot of money. So he was so happy about that he then used that money to help launch his son's startup company, which is called Toyota.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
So
Toyota is. No, I don't know if it's the number one vehicle in today's world, but when I was growing up, it was the number one vehicle from the time I started driving, which is in the early 70s, all the way up to. I guess the next after that was like the Hyundai or the Nissan. I guess they were neck and neck.
Well, Toyota gained steam and prominence in the 70s when they had that oil crisis. You remember when America has the oil crisis and the big cars that
Hmm.
Ford and Chevrolet and all those were making were gas guzzlers. So that's how Toyota get to enter the American market because they're making smaller cars that were more energy efficient. So
Ah, okay.
that's how they cross over into the American market. And they've been dominating ever since.
Yeah, they.
It's not that their cars are better than the American cars, but they're more fuel efficient.
Yeah, because they had bigger vehicles. Yeah, no,
Yes.
I don't know. My very first car was a Ford. Actually, most
Yeah.
of my cars have been Fords over the
Oh
years.
yeah.
Now I drive a Chrysler, but
Yeah.
yeah, but most of my cars have been Fords. The
Oh yeah.
Model T. All righty, so we got about 10, 15 minutes. So let's go over here to the. So we started with the leaders so you guys would get an idea of what that looks like, and everyone should be able to identify someone as that's a leader that as a business owner you'd like to learn more about them and emulate and maybe and emulate some of their practices. So for me, I thought I've always liked Sir Robert Bratton, and I think Warren Buffett. These are
Yeah.
leaders to me long term, and Branton, he owned Virgin Records and then Virgin Airlines, and he's got some islands out there and all that kind of stuff. But I've always admired him
Yeah.
as a leader, as a business owner, as mine. Do you have one, Gilbert?
Let's see. Let's see who mine is. I don't want
None,
to.
huh?
I don't want to say Elon Musk. I mean, he's a great inventor and all of that, but he's not a good leader because of how he treats his people. I mean,
Yeah,
coming up with the Tesla is a great invention, great idea, but sometimes strong leaders are not good leaders. You see
good
what I mean?
leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greg
So
says he would say from our list, Toyota was the one
Toyota,
to emulate, and
yeah,
then Carney,
Carnegie, yeah,
Carnegie for philanthropy. I do like that thought process, that because
yeah.
he really gave back. I guess the equivalent of that today would be Bill Gates, maybe.
Yeah, you got Bill Gates too, but I'm trying to look at an African American leader.
African
You see what
American.
I'm saying? that really, I mean, I know Martin Luther King made some changes and changed a lot of people's mind and culture and philosophy because of his mission and vision. Malcolm X did too. You know, even yesterday I was watching a video where people were saying, "Yeah, the chicken has come home to roost." You know, we'll always remember that when we align that with Malcolm.
I
But
think when you look at, oh, see, black, I would go with who's the guy with Ebony magazine?
Ebony,
Isn't that Graves? What's the
I,
guy that?
I don't remember his name, but the one that come to my mind, co-host, is Robert Smith. Robert Smith
Oh
is,
yeah, Robert Smith was the
yeah,
that man is
he's
on.
one
Yeah,
of the
he.
handful of black billionaires in this country. He's the one who paid off the student loans for all those kids who
Yeah,
graduated about 4 or 5 years ago, and he runs an investment company. But he didn't start out that way. But
yeah,
I like him because he's a philanthropist as well. I like people who give back. People who
yeah.
give
Robert.
back, and
Yeah, he was really good at that.
yes. So
And you
Robert
also
Smith.
have the Jet, the family. They did was it I can't think of the name. But before I get to that name, I do remember the name Reginald Lewis, who was he died very early on, but I think Reginald D. Lewis. He actually had manufacturing here in Los Angeles. He was a black man, and
Hmm.
he died very, very early on. But
Yeah.
he built this multi-million-dollar food manufacturing company. He was a businessman,
Yeah.
um, and American businessman, and he was one of the richest black men.
Yeah.
But he died. He had a tumor, I think. I think he died of tumor, and his wife was an Asian woman. He died at the age of 50.
Oh wow, that's young. It's
Yeah,
very
he
young.
died very, very young, but he was a businessman and a philanthropist, a titan. Um, he was a lawyer, a financier, and leader of a global food company called TLC Beatrice. Beatrice is out. Beatrice International. My aunt actually worked for Beatrice Food.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was.
Yes. So
Yeah.
those guys, man, those guys are the ones who I emulate because they started from nothing. They
Hmm.
get to a point where they start developing resources, and then they give back to the community. Those are the types of leaders I respect. I mean, I'm sure there are other leaders out there who do things, but the ones who give back to the community are usually the ones because I, I emulate my style from those types of folks, those leaders.
Okay. Yeah, great put. Yeah, Tom Joyner, but A.G. Gaston. Now, this man, if you're looking at him for a black man
Yes.
to emulate, this man,
Yes.
right out of slavery,
Yeah.
he became a millionaire several years after that. But he was a former slave,
That's the
and
one who
he
owned those insurance companies,
insurance
right?
companies, right? He enjoyed,
Yeah.
but not just owned. He owned the insurance companies, but he also recognized that he had to help the emancipation of his black brothers and
Yeah.
sisters. So
Yeah.
he was a philanthropist as well, and he had political activities. He actually supported a number of freedom fighters for black people, and he was part of the Southern California leadership. And so yeah, he gave a lot of his money back to help the fight um, against uh, slavery and racism and
And discrimination and
the
all of that.
discrimination, the Klan, all of that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah, I believe he was honored at some point.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
they show ain't Merriweather.
So with the leaders that we just talked about, folks, the many leaders, even though we listed 10, we had, at least another 10, 15 more that we
Hmm.
talked about. So with all of these leaders, they have something very, very much in common, and that's the challenges that they face as leaders. And we've got 6 top leadership challenges that these leaders face, and these are just some of them. Not These are not all the challenges, these are just some. So these are the top 6, and my co-host and I, we're just going to go over these real quickly. to let
Hmm.
you guys know what some of these leadership challenges are. And the first one is honing effectiveness. So honing effectiveness, you're probably wondering, what does that mean? Honing effectiveness. Well, it's about developing relevant skills, such as time management, prioritization, strategic thinking and planning, decision making, getting things up to speed so that they can work very effectively on the job. These things are honing effectiveness. So you look at effectiveness. So you look at talents and skills from other people. How can it contribute to the group? How can it contribute to the organization to help grow? And also to grow the mind's skill level of others. So that's honing effectiveness. Co-host, you want to do number two?
Yes, and number two, inspiring others. This one I think is very important. I think this is a skill set that or leadership methodology that I encompass is inspiring others. So the challenge in a lot of cases is motivating your team members to ensure that they're satisfied with their job and working smarter. And I think this is one, especially today when so many leaders are having problem with that, with their engagement with their employees. If a person doesn't feel valued and if a person don't feel that they're part of, you treat them and recognize them as you're more like your associate than a mere um, employee, where you really just come in. I pay you to do a job, you do the job and leave. But no, you want them to aspire to be their greatness, because if you do that, they're going to give you their everything. And I know when I worked under those type of leaders, it didn't matter. We had a common cause, and we had a mission and a vision that we were following. But when you just micromanage me and it only was about you, then you got nothing out of me. So inspiring
Exactly.
others is very important in this
Yes.
space.
I totally agree with that, co-host. And if you have employees that you don't want to be mediocre, this is number three, challenge number three. If you have employees that you don't want to be mediocre employees, then you got to develop those employees. And this is a challenge that many entrepreneurs or leaders they fail at, because many of them don't know how to develop employees. They don't know how to. And see, co-host, this is one of the things that we do with the KYP, knowing your personnel, that assessment, where you
Hmm.
look into the person's skill level, their talent level, see what they're good at, and then you put them in those positions so they can be successful. That's a big part of developing an employee. Coaching and mentoring, we do that too. We
Hmm.
coach and we mentor employees and also our small businesses to show them that they can tap into certain resources that's within them or around them or close to them, that they can really use to become more effective in the marketplace and become more successful. You want to
Right.
touch on?
So that they'll be valued
Yeah,
on the premises, in the business. Leading a team, another key challenge is a lot of people just don't have those leadership skills. And
correct.
when there's no leader at the helm, then the flock and the and the soldiers are gonna flounder.
Hmm.
So they don't know which way to go. That's even in the animal kingdom, right? The queen
Yeah,
bee, the ant. They gotta have a leader. The mammals they have to identify who is the leader, and then everybody else follows suit. Um, so as a leader, as a business owner, you want to be able to take your role, and be able to lead for your employees and your board. Everyone needs to know that you're strong enough to carry on the mission and the vision of the
hmm,
organization, and to be able to stand up and withstand any challenges that the company may encounter, not fall apart and start screaming that it's somebody else's fault, which somebody we know does that on a regular basis.
yeah,
It's never their fault. You're the leader.
yeah.
Everything is your fault.
It's all about accountability, responsibility,
It
all of
starts
that.
at the top. Any business that is floundering on the bottom, you got to go and look at the top. Who
Yep,
the heck
yep.
is leading them? Because I can guarantee you that's where it started.
Exactly, exactly. And on the leading teams comes collaboration. You got to be able to collaborate with, not just with your team, but make your team collaborate with another team so you can all work together and focus on the mission and the vision of the business so that you can get to that desired outcome. You know, at the end of the day, who is most important here is that customer that has that pain in the marketplace that we need to solve, because we got to solve it better than the competition. So in
Hmm.
order to do that, we got to empower our team members, make them feel
Hmm.
wanted, make them feel respected, you know, provide them with the skill development and knowledge that they need so that they can be really confident in what they do.
Exactly.
And then
This.
number five is guiding change, you know, so that's the challenge. Number five, guiding change. Uh, a lot of people are afraid of change, co-hosts. They don't like to see changes. I remember back in the day when I used to work at a manufacturing company and that manufacturing company closed down. I had to go find a new job. So to find a new job, I had to do a resume. I never did a resume before. Didn't know how to do a resume. So I leaned on a friend of mine and he said, "Man, you better learn how to do this yourself." So I had to try to figure, I hated it. You know, I was using an Apple computer at the time to try to figure things out. So now I got to learn the Apple computer and I got to learn how to do a resume.
You were having a problem with change, huh?
I was having a problem with change, man. I'm going, why can't they just not ask for resumes and just call me in? No, no, it wasn't like that. So, guiding and managing change is very important within an organization so that your workers don't feel uncomfortable when you introduce change, because change is going to happen, you know, because your customers want new things, they want different things, they want convenience, they want easiness, they want, you know, inexpensiveness, they want strong efficiency. So in order for you to move from one stage to the next to get those things, change got to be implemented. So, you know, mobilizing, understanding, leading the change means being a successful change leader. So, as a change leader, you got to understand what is important to the customer, what is important to the workers and organization and the marketplace. So, all of those four components, you got to put it together and see how you can be on top of change instead of at the bottom of change and struggling like I did back, you know, about 20 years ago.
Right, exactly. And I also think that a lot of businesses that fail is because they refuse to adapt,
To
uh,
embrace
to
change. Yeah,
embrace change and what's coming, and to even see it coming and be able to be preemptive. They just they are just so resistant in it. I mean, there are people who won't. There are people still with flip phones.
oh
Uh,
yeah, oh
because
yeah,
they don't want to embrace the new
they don't want
technology.
to. Yeah,
So there's a percentage, there's about 20% of people that are change friendly.
right.
And then there's another 50% of the people who sit on the fence.
Yeah,
And then there's the balance of that are people that just stay neutral. They don't get involved at
yeah,
all. They just
yeah.
kind of stay in the middle of the road. But I'm going to tell you, like you said, change is going to happen. It's going to change with you or without you.
Mm-hmm.
It's better to embrace it
Yeah,
so that it won't be so drastic on you in your life
right,
if you don't. But most people, so yeah, only 20% of the population embraces change and can go with the flow. Most
right.
people have sit on the fence and they wait, and which unfortunately is like what I see with our race of people, African Americans. We've become very apathetic,
Yeah,
and so we're just sitting waiting for
resisting the change. Right.
resisting the change instead of going out there and making the change that has to happen.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, that has been detrimental to us and our economic building an economic of structure and a solid system for growth in our race of people. So,
and that's where
change.
the effective leaders come in to mitigate the change and develop processes to
Mhm.
get them to learn and follow instructions to adapt those change so that there'll be minimal consequences. That's a real big part of the change process. So as effective leaders, those are things to take into consideration. Number six,
Yeah.
co-host.
Managing stakeholders. So this is important. Is managing relationships, both internal and external, politics, internal and external, and images in the workplace environment. So that's a tough one. If you
Yeah,
don't
that's a tough one right
Right,
there.
because everything doesn't happen within the walls of your building. You have
No.
to be able to see that things are going to happen before they're happening, and then
Hmm.
you have to be able to lobby for yourself, and you have to be involved. I don't believe that business owners can be in business and be successful without being politically,
Yeah,
community
yeah,
involved. I just
yeah,
don't think it is possible. You have to, because you have to make sure you're fighting for the things that are important
yeah.
to your family, to your employees' family, and to your
Hmm.
business. That's how you stay longevity. There was a church that I did books for, and we're gonna come round this in. There is a church that I did business for. They decided did bookkeeping for, and they decided this is during the craze of being a big mega church.
Yeah.
So they bought, I won't say their name, but they bought some property in the city that they were in, and they had no political connections whatsoever. So
Mm.
when they bought the property, it wasn't zoned for what they wanted. It wasn't zoned for a church, first of all.
Right.
So again, staying within their little environment, not understanding and doing the due diligence. And then when that happened, they had no political relationships where they could go to that person and say, hey, how do we get rezoned, and get them to buy into that
Right.
process, right?
Right.
The one
Right.
thing Reverend Murray had was that thing when I grew up was we had political, we had community, we had all kinds of relationships and connections, because that is how you grow. And
Yeah.
so even as a business, if you don't have those outside connections, how are you going to grow? How are you going to scale? How are you going to market? How are you going to promote if nobody
Hmm.
knows that you exist? So very, very
You,
important
you
to.
got to know who those stakeholders are and just make sure you strengthen those relationships. And like you say, community leaders, the community partners, politicians, directors and administrators in city departments, those are guys that we need, and women that we need to build relationships with, because sometimes, getting a permit may take 6 months, but just because of good relationship and courtesy and all of that, they may say, okay, we'll do it for you in 3 weeks. So
Hmm.
those are the types of things. And influencing others is really key in the managing of stakeholder aspect. You got to get buy-in from them.
Yeah, you have to. So you can't just run a business within the four walls of your business,
Hmm.
your property. Even if you're virtual, you got to get out there. You got to meet with people, network, because you never know when you're going to need these people, and so you got to build relationships. That's my mentor, Dr. George Frazier. That was the first thing he told me when I first started my before I even actually left corporate America. I was going to his power networking events, and the first thing he said: build your network, build the network, and then develop the relationship. One thing to build the network, but you got to build relationships with the people,
Yeah.
and so very important. So I think successful businesses. Greg says I got a ribeye in my hand that makes me a stakeholder. Yes, Greg, that makes you a stakeholder. So, but guys, that's it. So even if you're one man shop, and you're wear all the hats, your goal is that you want to be able to be a successful business with a staff, but at the same time, you want your staff to feel that they can grow, and that they're part of the organization's growth and success. And so you have to be able to identify, as we call it, the SWOT of yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, and your threats and the opportunities for you. So I always tell people when I talk about the SWOT analysis, Gilbert, I always talk about not just to do a SWOT on bye bye Greg, not just a SWOT on your business, do a SWOT on self.
Exactly. Exactly. Do a SWOT on yourself and your team as well.
Right, so that you will know what you need to fix.
Yes. That is so true.
Yeah,
So
what
true.
needs to be fixed. So every now and then you need a little bit of tweaking to
Yes.
get everything back on track. So that is
Yes.
our show today, guys.
I hope you guys liked it. I hope the information we provided on these 10 prolific leaders and the leadership challenges that leaders face in the marketplace. I really, really hope that it provided some insight to all of you, and you start looking at your leadership style, your leadership approaches differently. The one thing that my co-host said that is so powerful is building those networks, man, building those communities, building relationships. As an entrepreneur, you cannot survive unless you're building relationships and networks.
Right. You have to do it. I was telling someone I was at Dr. Rosie's Black Writers on Tour last week, and I told I was asking this guy, and he said, "Yeah." So now he says, "I need help." I said, "What do you need help?" "I need help on marketing." So you do realize that you're supposed to be able to develop that marketing strategy before you write the book. So now you're on the backside of it. Okay, you want them to know it's coming. But yeah, developing those relationships, those outreaches, because that's really where your first marketing
Yes.
strategy is going to take place, is within your own personal network, because they already know you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So,
Definitely.
all righty, what a show!
This
So
was a
it's
great show, co-host. I like this. This is good.
yeah.
This is very
So
good.
yeah. So come on back next week, guys. We don't know what we're gonna. I think we have a guest next week, or we will be working on having a guest.
And if we
And
don't, I guess we'll go back to class in session like we did today again, and we'll cover a different topic that will help you to gain some insights and tips to running your business.
awesome, awesome, awesome. So you guys have a fantastic week, a weekend, until we can see you again next week. And we look forward to you tuning in. Going over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, and become part of the Business Zone family, so that you get notifications on a weekly. Whenever we go live, you get your notifications. We will welcome you into our family.
That's
And
right. We'll have a seat at the table for you.
yes, we will, with plenty of knowledge.
And
So
if there's no seat, we'll get a folding chair for you.
there you go. That way. That's what Shirley Chisholm, who was a political, she ran for the first black woman to run for president, actually. And she said, if there's no seat at my table, I'll bring my folding chair.
That's right.
All righty. So have a great one, guys.
We'll see you guys next week, okay?
As a small biz pro, I saw we roll, using procurement, program and control. As a small biz pro, I saw we grow, using procurement, program and control. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur.